let's now get into the thick of it, as we might be calling it. We are going to now look very, very closely, and I'm going to put it up on the screen because I think that we're at a point where this is really the only way to do it. We are going to look at what we know and what we are waiting on when it comes to this election. Now, as I said, currently we are looking at numbers of Joe Biden, 238. And in fact, I think I might even have a better view of this for you. No, I don't. Not necessarily. Let me actually see if I can. There we go. I think that's going to be better for us. Perfect. Right now, officially, the count is 238 for Joe Biden, 213 for Donald Trump. Now, as a reminder, in the map I had for you guys yesterday, I did not believe that Joe Biden was going to win Florida. I did not believe that Joe Biden was going to win Georgia. I did not believe Joe Biden was going to win Ohio. And in fact, I even had Arizona for Donald Trump. So relative to my map from yesterday, looking only at things that have been called, Joe Biden is actually doing better than I had. Everything that has been called as I predicted, other than Arizona, which I had for Trump, and has gone to Joe Biden. Now, the areas of concern. Joe Biden right now is 32 electoral votes shy of the 270 that he needs. Georgia has not yet been called, but I never believed Georgia was going to go for Biden. I believe it will eventually go for Donald Trump. North Carolina is our first trouble spot. I believed North Carolina would go Biden. Right now, with 94% reporting, Donald Trump is ahead by 1.4. Now, if you were on my live stream late last night, you might notice that these numbers are identical to the ones that we had last night. We don't exactly know what's going on in North Carolina. Different states are starting to count absentee ballots in different ways on different cycles. But the numbers have not moved in North Carolina. There is certainly the expectation that there are some strong Biden areas left to be counted, but we do not know. Now, I will get to the math implications momentarily. Pennsylvania is an extremely important state for us to look at because Pennsylvania is now plus 10 for Donald Trump, but you will notice not even 2/3 of the votes have been counted. And this is where I want to do a deep dive with you guys before. And I hope that this isn't boring to people. I think this is actually really important to do. Pennsylvania is of massive importance to Joe Biden. Why? Pennsylvania is worth 20 electoral votes. If Biden gets them, it puts him at 258, meaning he needs only 12 more, meaning that Wisconsin and Nevada would do it, or Michigan would do it, and certainly North Carolina would as well. Why are these numbers so slow in Pennsylvania? Because I told you they would be. Pennsylvania doesn't start counting mail-in ballots until all voting has stopped. And if we go and look at the New York Times and zoom into Pennsylvania, this is where the devil is really in the details. If you look at, for example, Philadelphia County, which contains the city of Philadelphia, you see that only about half the votes have been counted there. Joe Biden continues to lead basically 3-1. It's about 75-25, even better actually, in Philadelphia County for Joe Biden. Only half of the votes have been counted. That alone, if you do just some very, very basic math, is potentially a hundreds of thousands of vote advantage for Joe Biden. The numbers there could close half of the gap that currently exists. You then look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, which has counted 70%, Joe Biden is up by 9 there. That could potentially close the gap again by 70,000 votes, theoretically. Allentown has now gone towards Donald Trump by a little bit, but there is a real reason to think that the outstanding mail-in ballots in the Allentown area, which is Lehigh County, could be very helpful to Joe Biden. So when we look at the general number, and this is not me blowing smoke, it's just an assessment of what we know and what we expect. When you look at the numbers in Pennsylvania and you see, wow, 64% reporting, Trump is up 10. That seems impossible. But then as you realize how much there is left to count and you realize that a lot of those small rural Trump counties are at 100% reporting, and a lot of these dense Democratic parts are at 50, 60, 70%, with Biden's margin being huge, all we can do is count the ballots. We'll know eventually the results. We will know. So let's wait on that. A few other spots to look at. Wisconsin. Wisconsin has now flipped in favor of Joe Biden. All of last night, Wisconsin was red as they were at 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, even close to 50% reporting. Wisconsin was in the Donald Trump column. And those of us who knew about the red mirage scenario and understood how Wisconsin counts, we expected it would become close. When I went to bed, it was red. When I woke up, it was blue. It has not yet been called. It is a small margin. As of this moment, Joe Biden is up 21,000 votes in Wisconsin. The reports from people who know Wisconsin, remember, we want to be careful and precise. The reports from folks who know Wisconsin are that the areas left to count with mail-in ballots are Democratic leaning areas. If I were looking at this, my expectation would be Biden ultimately is going to get Wisconsin. And then lastly, Michigan. Michigan also 18,000 votes right now separating the two candidates with Joe Biden ahead. We were seeing panic yesterday, but we were also hearing from Michigan experts who said, look at what's in and look at what's outstanding. This is going to trend towards Joe Biden, and it has gone indeed now slightly for Joe Biden. Now, by the time you listen to this, maybe Joe Biden will have won. There's the idea Michigan will be called today or tomorrow. Maybe Donald Trump will have taken over. And then lastly, Nevada. Nevada has 67% reporting. It's worth 6 electoral votes. Joe Biden slightly ahead. And then it remains with North Carolina. We have that same lead of 1.4 as of right now for Donald Trump, and questions about what is outstanding there. So when we go to the map and we start looking at scenarios, again, even though Georgia has not been called for Trump, I believe he gets it. Let's now look at this scenario. And also, Alaska has not been called for Trump, but I believe he gets it. That would put us at 238 to 232 in favor of Joe Biden. Okay, so what now? What now is, and let me even adjust this so that we can get, I want the best. We don't usually do it this way, but it's just so important that I do it because we are looking at these election results live. I want to have everything on screen for you. We have a situation where, let's imagine for a second that North Carolina stays with Trump, okay? That wouldn't be good. But I want everybody to understand that if Trump gets North Carolina and even gets Pennsylvania, if Joe Biden can just hold his leads in Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan, he wins. And if he were to get the Nebraska 2nd District, that would be 271 Biden, 267 Trump. And I'll even change these to say Biden and Trump. I am not trying to give you unrealistic scenarios. I am merely telling you Biden has a path without Pennsylvania and without North Carolina. If he were to get not North Carolina, but Pennsylvania, all of a sudden you can take Nevada off the table and Biden still wins. You can even take you can't take Michigan off the table, and that's an error. Well, you could take Michigan off the table if Biden gets Nevada, or if he gets Michigan, you could take Wisconsin and Nevada off the table, and Biden still wins. So my point here to you is what? As we look at these numbers, my point is this was never going to be the blowout that 538 said it would. This is why my map was very conservative. All along, when I was telling people, imagine that your state is 50-50, and people would email me saying, David, you're gaslighting people. You're making people think it's closer than it is so that they vote. No, I'm saying we don't really know how close some of these states are with absentee ballots and all of these potential factors. All we know is we have the opportunity to vote, and we should. And now, indeed, it is going to be much closer to my map than anything we got from any of these modelers. So we have to just go through the process and understand Biden can win without Pennsylvania or North Carolina if he holds his leads in Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. He doesn't actually need North Carolina or Pennsylvania. If Biden gets North Carolina or Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania being more likely, those results start to look significantly better. Other things that I wanted to look at, I guess the only other thing to look at here would be in terms of the presidency, just looking at the popular vote is one thing I would look at. The popular vote right now is almost 69 million votes for Joseph R. Biden Jr. and more than 66 million votes for Donald Trump. So again, Joe Biden, by the time it's done, will have easily won the popular vote. Record vote, by the way, for Donald Trump added about 3 million votes. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. That is really, really important. But that is where we are right now. So is it time to panic? It's definitely time for concern. But Joe Biden has two completely separate paths to victory, one which includes Pennsylvania and or North Carolina, less likely North Carolina, and one which doesn't require either of them, which goes through Wisconsin, Michigan, and Nevada. Count every ballot. Don't get ahead of ourselves. We will be here with you. Let me know your thoughts. I'm on Twitter at @dpakman. I want to take a second to tell you about one of our sponsors, S&H Masks. S&H Masks has everything you need when it comes to face masks and other protective gear for COVID-19, and they're giving my audience 20% off. S&H Masks is the company that I've personally been going to for face masks. I love and trust the products they sell, and that's actually why I reached out to them about being a sponsor. I've tried tons of different face masks this year, like many of you, and I still have not found a mask that is more comfortable or easier to breathe in than the washable cotton masks that they sell. It's made of a silky, lightweight cloth that feels great on the skin, has a convenient adjustable strap, and it features a disposable 5-layer particle filter made of activated carbon. They also have disposable cloth masks, which are really comfortable, as well as all of the other gear like face shields, alcohol wipes, no-touch infrared thermometers, and all of their prices are very reasonable. I also love S&H Masks because they've donated over 60,000 masks to healthcare institutions. They're an excellent company. Shipping is just $5 and shipping is free on orders over $150. You can get there by going to davidpakman.com/mask. The link is under this video, and you can save 20% on everything in their store when you use the coupon code DAVID.